We'll start with the Fast Five. Our first question, what's your name?
So my name is Josh Harris.
And Josh, where are you located?
We are located in Snow Camp, North Carolina, which is about the center of the state.
Oh, okay. And what's your farm's name?
It's Harris Home Place Farm.
And what animals do you graze and manage on your farm?
So we manage primarily South Pole cattle, and then we also do some woodland raised pork and some pasture poultry as well.
Oh, very good. And what year did you start grazing?
Oh man, I grew up in it, so I tell folks I'm a little odd in that I'm kind of like a second generation grazer, but we started implementing rotational, regenerative, whatever you want to call it back then, back in 1998. So,
Oh,
um,
yes.
I joke that I had a big part in that being 7 years old. So, but it's been cool to grow up and see it in action though, and kind of have a lot of experience hands on with it over the years.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure it has. And I'm sure growing up in it that whole time has really shaped your perspective on it and management. Welcome to the Grazing Grass Podcast, the podcast dedicated to sharing the stories of grass based livestock producers and exploring regenerative practices that improve the land, animals, and our lives. I'm your host, Gal Hardage, and each week we'll dive into the journeys, challenges, and successes of producers like you, learning from their experiences and inspiring each other to grow and graze better. Whether you're a seasoned grazer or just getting started, this is the place for you. Are you ready to turn market data into your competitive edge? Introducing the newest course from Noble Research Institute, Market Smart Ranching. Learn how to evaluate the true worth of your livestock and assets, break down costs, and time buying and selling decisions like a pro. It's all about making smart, market-driven moves that put you ahead. Join Noble for Market Smart Ranching, October 14th and 15th in McKinney, Texas. Scholarship and grant opportunities are available for those who qualify. Visit noble.org and select Find a Course to learn more about Market Smart Ranching or enroll today, because smart decisions can lead to a stronger ranch. For 10 seconds about the podcast and for the farm, last weekend I went to the Ozark Homesteading Expo in Springfield. I was able to see a few past guests, see some friends there, and meet some new people. Talked to Victoria about her sheep enterprise that she's getting started. And we got to listen to Greg Judy do a presentation, among others. I really enjoyed going up there. I only got to go one day, though, but I made the most of it. Next week, I'll be going to the South Pole Field Day, so I'm looking forward to that. And with that, let's get back to Josh. But I want to jump back to then. You were really small. Why'd your dad get interested in it?
Well, we were primarily fescue in
Oh, yeah.
central North Carolina, and we had traditionally just had a commercial herd that he bought out from my grandfather. Went into Santa Gertrudis a little bit, and then we had a neighbor that did some bouncers of Angus Gelby
Oh, yeah.
cross, and had some of those, but they just couldn't on the fescue. And he went to a talk up in Greensboro, and he jokes about it. It was so early on, there was like 6 people there. So,
Oh,
um,
yeah.
and he got a reference to Teddy Gentry in the South, or to the grazing piece there,
Oh,
as far
yes.
as how to implement it, and kind of drew a line in the sand at that point. That was like, we're going to stop putting any amendments on the pasture. We're going to start moving them, and we're going to implement some different management practices, because it was also a food piece at the time. I think he was pretty convicted on, like, I don't know if I would want to eat the beef from our farm. So,
Oh, yeah.
improve in different aspects of the whole operation. But it was kind of that time period is like, we're going to change. We're going to do it different. I didn't really have any idea what was going on at that point, but I kind of grew up in it. But it started slow. It was like, well, let's split this pasture, and and let's kind of flip them over here. And then once it started, you started seeing the results. It kind of took off from there. So
Yeah, you start moving cows a little bit, and those results can cause you to start doing, well, what else can I do? How
yeah,
often can I move them?
yeah,
Yeah.
it can be a little bit of a drug at times. So
Yeah. So growing up in it, when your dad started doing this, when did he get into electric fencing?
pretty early on,
Yeah.
which is pretty funny. Back then, the county was doing some projects to get cows out of water systems. So
Oh, yeah.
um, he was getting them to help with putting in drinkers and wells and stuff, and talking about putting some cross fences in. And they actually recommended 5-strand barbed wire. And it was like, what? Like, no, no, absolutely not. So is, just the concept of a 1-strand high tensile across a
Hmm.
pasture was um, pretty new at that time,
Oh, yeah.
which is kind of wild to think about. But he was also working full time off the farm, so it was how do you create a system that works with that time schedule? And we were young then, we're playing sports, and there was a lot of travel involved. So
Oh, yeah.
so I can commend him a whole heck of a lot on how he got started with it and how it was set up from the beginning to kind of work creatively.
Yeah, that was a time when you drove through the country and you didn't see any high tensile fence. And to be honest, I still don't see a whole lot in our area, but you definitely didn't see any during that period.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was a little newer concept, but we started implementing it then, and we're running off of wired boxes pretty much,
Oh,
which
yeah.
was always interesting as a 12, 13, 14-year old, and there's a thunderstorm on the road, and I get to hop on the four-wheeler, go and plug a fence, because if not, it's probably gone. So
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, as a teenager growing up in it, i- did you love it and think this is what I want to do? Or how did you end up on a farm?
yeah, I've always really enjoyed it. I mean, when I was little, I was all over the place, and we were, down in the creek, and my buddies were over. We're, going through the woods, and it's an adventure all the time. And so I think I just naturally grew up with that love for the farm in our
Oh,
our
yeah.
area, and just kind of growing up with that lifestyle. So even through the teenage years, it was probably your classic teenage years where it's like, man, I gotta go work on Saturday morning, which, I played a lot of sports in high school too. So we'd have a basketball game Friday night, and it's like, well, we gotta get up and work cows on Saturday morning. And, it's a little different lifestyle for me compared to most of the people that I hung out with. So,
Oh, yeah.
but, I always really enjoyed the cattle part of it. I think I enjoyed the management aspect, the ability to look at projecting cows, and what are they going to turn out as, and which ones are going to be bull calves. And it was always fun. I liked that part when I was younger, and so I think it just was kind of natural for me from the start.
Yeah. And I'll have to admit, I love dairying. We dairied for a long time. I left the farm to go to college, came home and dairied. But as a teenager, there was a lot of times I wouldn't be able to convince anyone I loved it because it's like, do I have to go milk again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, very often. So he had a rule for me too growing up. He said that because we had a wood stove that heated the house.
Oh,
It was,
yeah.
it was an exterior one. So he was like, that woodshed better be full before you go deer hunting in the fall. And I was like, okay.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's pretty good.
But I got really good at splitting wood, but regardless, off topic. But
Yeah. When you got out of school, is that when you started your journey with your own animals?
no. So me and my dad are 50-50 on the farm, and
Oh,
we
okay.
work together right now with it. So we make a pretty good team, I'd say. But I went through high school, and then I played baseball in college. So I was gone a lot for, a few years there. And then after college, I actually got into coaching, and then
Mm.
coached college baseball for a while. But it was always funny. There was always this tug, like, hey, I got to come. Anytime I'm back, I'm like, we're on the farm, we're doing stuff.
Oh,
And
yeah.
when I was coaching college baseball and we had off weekends, I would I'd ride up here and work cows or whatever we needed to do. And so there was always that tug, and it was always that eventual goal of like, gonna be back and we're gonna, continue the legacy of our family farm too. Because I'm the sixth generation on our farm. So,
Oh,
it
yes.
was part of love for it and part responsibility at the same time, but, probably 90-10 on the love and responsibility piece though.
Oh, yeah. And I'm sure you loved it and you just grew up knowing this is where I'm going to end up.
Yeah, yeah, it
Yeah.
was. And I joke because I met my wife in college, and I went to school in a small school in Tennessee, and I told her I was like, I mean, I'm just gonna let you know, like this is where I'm going, so you're in or you're out. But luckily, she didn't kick me to the side at that point, so she's
Oh,
hung in
yeah.
there. But
And
um,
I completely understand that, Josh, because I knew growing up, I knew when I went to college, I was going to end up right in this area. I've got family here. I didn't know how it was all going to happen, but I was going to end up here. So that's not really a healthy viewpoint when you're looking for a job because you're like, well, that's where I'm going. So how far can I drive from there?
yeah, yep, yep.
So when you decided to come back home and become a partner with your dad, how did that work? Because I talk on this farm that I work with my dad. Dad has his own herd. I have my own herd. And then we are partners on some sheep. So, how did that work coming home and you and him becoming partners?
Well, it's an interesting story about how I got back home too, because I'd been coaching college baseball for 4 years, had worked my way up, and then the school had some financial trouble, so my position got cut, and I was just kind
No.
of left hanging in the wind a little bit, and it's kind of one of those where God kind of has a plan for what He's going to do with you, and it was like,
Right.
okay, well, you're going back home now, and I was like, all right. And then that same year, that summer, we picked a lease up on the farm across the road from us that doubled our acreage.
Oh, yes.
So it was just like extreme timing with that. And so talking through like what my next step was with my parents and with my dad, he was like, "Look, we're gonna grow it. Like, let's do it together. Let's really go at this a little harder and a little different mindset than we've had in the past." So that was a big part of it. And, it worked out employment wise for me off the farm at that time. That the athletic director position at the high school I went to came open. So
Oh,
that
yes.
I mean, it worked out perfectly, and also learned pretty quickly that schedule is brutal. So
It is, yes.
I'm not doing that anymore. I had to find something much more flexible as we have grown. So but that was kind of how I got back to the farm. And, I'd say my dad is very unique in how he approaches our relationship with that. And, you hear a lot of, hey, it's my way or the highway, and we've done this is how we've always done it. And that is not at all how he views it. So,
Oh, yeah.
he's allowed
Definitely.
me to come in and really create a lot and bring some different viewpoints and some ideas and have a real grasp on the management of it and kind of be a guide in that. And, eventually we'll work through the whole transition piece. I don't know what it looks like right now, but we'll get there. So, we have a really good working relationship. We work together really well. We get along very well. So, and I think it's a good piece that I wish a lot more farms would learn with the generational aspects of like there's responsibilities in both ends of it. Like the older
Oh, yeah.
generation, they've got to have that responsibility to open up a little bit for your next generation coming. But then your younger generation, you've got to have that responsibility of respect and honor of that older generation too. So when those two balance well, I think it works well and it goes smoothly.
I have to agree. I do think younger me and when my dad was younger, we didn't always work through it as well as we do now. It's been an evolution as but as I think about it, I mean, I've been here and we've been working together since probably close to I guess it's close to 30 years now. And that's besides growing up with dad. So
Yeah.
with with coming home and you expanded the farm there, what kind of cattle did you have at the time or your dad have? Was those when he was mainly balancers?
No, we had South Poles by that point.
Oh,
So
by that point, it already changed over.
yep, we had been introduced to South Poles back in 2006. So I was in eighth grade then, in between eighth and ninth grade when we got our first South Poles. So,
Oh, okay.
and I remember, we rode down to Alabama and went and rode around with Dave Roberts and Teddy on the farm at Bench Tree, and we convinced them to sell 10 heifers and a bull, and that's how we got started. And Dad tells the story a lot better than I do, but it was as soon as we entered those into our herd, it was a night and day difference, and the rest has been history since then. So we kind of were very very early into the South Poles.
Oh, yeah. I'm trying to think when I heard about South Post, and I feel like I heard about them fairly early on the timeline. And I talked to a breeder up in, I think, northern Missouri about it, and they sent me some photos, and I just wasn't sure. And of course, like most things, I'm broke. So, we didn't pursue that. And of course, looking back, I'm like, why didn't I? But that's the way it goes. With the South Post, you mentioned how it was a night and day difference. What was the difference you all saw once you
Well,
added those South Poles in?
so where we're at North Carolina in the southeast, it's hot in the summers and it is humid. I mean, it is, we call them 90 days where it's over 90 degrees and over 90% humidity. It's air you can wear when you walk out the door.
Yeah.
So that plays a big role, and the fescue plays a big role. So when we could go out there and it's 2 o'clock in July and it's hot, and you know the balancers are under the trees and South Poles are out grazing, I mean that's a massive difference. That's very noticeable.
Oh, yeah.
The fly loads were night and day difference. I mean and it's interesting to see that side by side too. So we just it was little observations like that we saw, and it was like they fit the
Oh,
system.
yeah.
So they get fat on grass and they handle fescue well, and they do well in our temperature and our climate. So they're very adapted.
And that's a great way to try and see if some animals of a breed will work for you. Bring in a few, you can see the differences. I know a lot of times when we're talking about fly loads on animals, you're just used to looking at your herd. We have brought in different breeds of bulls, trying different things, and it is quite obvious when we wean calves on fly load differences just due to genetics.
Hmm.
Because I'll have calves right next to each other, one's covered in flies and the other one's not, which is just crazy. In my mind, it makes sense as I think about it. There's a genetic element to it, but how that mechanism works, I think there's been some discussion about that. But it's interesting when you see that, and if you've always just used one breed or your cows are pretty homozygous, you're not seeing those differences to be able to pinpoint them.
Correct, correct. So it was pretty influential to me to see that at a young age,
Oh
and
yeah.
and kind of go through that experience very early on. So I was bought into the South Poles. I really liked them, even when I was in high school and college, and maybe not making management decisions, but you could tell they fit really well, and they were just extremely docile. I mean, just
Oh
calm as
yeah.
could be. Which, we tell everybody that comes and visit us, like, you know, docility is somewhat genetic, but it's also management too. So it's how you
Oh
handle them;
yeah.
they're going to respond. So. But when we did pick up that lease that I mentioned earlier, part of that was we had to buy some of the cows that were there.
Oh
So
yeah.
we had kind of a second revision of having different genetics in our herd at that point, and to see some differences, which they were 100% Angus, Black Angus, and they were
Oh
probably
yeah.
some of because the owner was not shy on spending money on genetics, so
Oh
they
yes.
were they were pretty well thought of genetics, and even then it was just, man, the South Poles just outperformed them. I mean, they handle the temperature, they handle the grass, they handle all that. I mean, it's still they're just much more efficient for our system, that is.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it worked for you all. Did
Hmm.
you also, when y'all got those South Poles, started seeing that difference, and then you were able to get that lease later on? Were you using South Pole bulls on those Angus cows and balancer cows?
Yeah, we use South Poles on them. We ended up moving those cows on as bred to a South Pole bull before we ever dealt with calves off of them because we didn't
Oh,
have
okay.
any interest in keeping them in our herd at that point. So
Oh,
we were
yeah.
like, well, let's move them on and then we can, expand our South Pole numbers at that point.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So y'all were fully bought in by that time. Because I was going to ask about those half South Poles, how they perform, but it sounds like you all sold them as bred too before they got
Yeah.
there.
Well, we
Yeah.
we had some of the bouncers we bred South Pole bulls. We still have one of our mama cows we kept from that. That was 50-50. And we've actually kept her daughters too because she's such a good cow and
Oh,
her
yeah.
daughters are good cows. It's like, a good cow's a good cow. That's where,
Right.
we
Exactly.
can
Yeah.
we can get really caught up in papers, but a good cow's
We
a
can.
good
You're right.
functional cow is a good functional cow. So she fit that bill very well and she's a very productive member of our herd over the years. So she's
Oh,
about
yeah.
13 years old now. But
Well, that's the kind you want. Ones that last, work for you for over a decade.
yep, very
Yeah.
much so.
And and you bring up an excellent point there about regardless of the papers, you have good animals, you have poor animals, you have animals adapted for your area, not adapted. You just have to find what works for you in that area. And yeah.
Yeah. The adaptability's been a big focus of ours the last probably 7-8 years now.
So you went pretty much just South Pole. You mentioned a commercial cow there. Do you have some commercial cows or do you go ahead and go all registered stock?
No, we're all registered stock with it too. So
Yeah.
it was kind of funny. I think when we first got South Poles, I don't think they had a registry yet. So,
Oh, yeah.
my dad was actually on the board for a long time of the breed, so it was, he kind of got to go through that experience too. But we've always valued the registration piece of it because it adds credibility to, the lineage and all that.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I mean, it ultimately it does bring value to those animals, especially in the market right now. It might not be a big value, but it's worth the time and effort to make sure that they're registered in there.
Oh, yeah. Just continuing on that piece for registration, different registries or associations have different requirements. What are you required to when you register them? Does it take DNA testing? Are you required to submit weights? What's the requirements for registered animals?
The big change for South Poles is that it will be DNA parentage
Oh,
moving
yeah.
forward now. So that was kind of big news. I think it was July 1 that kicked off. So any calves moving forward will have to be parentage verified in there.
Oh, yeah.
So
You mentioned that DNA being recent, that parentage has to be verified, which I think is a great thing. And that's a great tool for DNA because as much as we would like to think we know exactly who that animal was bred to, if we're not running very many animals or very many bulls, or even if we have one bull in a pasture with cows, things can happen and you end up with a calf that's out of something else.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It could. You never know.
Yeah.
So
It's
that's
not quite as bad as the sheep and goats, but it can still
yeah.
happen with cattle.
Yeah, and for us in our operation, we were moving that direction anyway, and having to
Hmm.
use multiple bulls. So,
Oh, yeah.
it was kind of like, okay, well, I see a smaller operation with 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 cows, something like that would probably be a little more opposed to that type of stuff. But no, it's as the breed grows, you have to keep that validity in it. Be a good way to put it.
Right. Yeah. When you look at your herd and selecting animals for breeding purposes, what's your breeding philosophy?
Well, so before we picked that lease up, we actually had two separate herds of mama cow because our farm's somewhat fragmented. We got a pasture here, pasture there.
Oh,
So
okay.
what we did is we would have a spring calving group and a fall calving group because you can
Oh, yeah.
calve in the fall here with our climate. It's not an issue too much. So, and it's actually what a lot of producers around us have traditionally done. So spring calving in our area is probably a little contrarian. Used to be anyway. It's not as unpopular now, but
Oh, yeah.
so we had kind of two groups with that, and we could use one bull on both of them, and it was a little more effective. So when we picked up more acreage, we put everything together. So
Yeah.
that was like, okay, we have two calving seasons at that point, and we were like, well, how this will be interesting to manage. So We've kept both calving seasons, which
Oh,
is
okay.
kind of, I know it's different. There'll be a lot of opinions on that, but it's also plays a role for our meat business that has really developed. But we manage when the bull's in there, and it seems to work pretty well. We've been doing it for about 4 years now, but it is 2 weanings a year and a little bit different
Oh, yeah.
management. But as our numbers have grown, we've also learned our infrastructure would have to grow too. So whenever we can, in this transition period, if we keep them split up as far as when they're calving, then it's less calves we have to handle within our infrastructure at one time. So it makes it more manageable for us.
Oh,
But
yeah.
it keeps it exciting throughout the year, though. I mean, who doesn't love going out there during calving season and get to do it twice in a year? That's pretty cool. So,
But the people who don't love it are the people having to pull calves.
yeah.
Because I know if you're pulling calves or you have to check them all the time, it's no bueno. But you
And
breed
that's,
for livestock that doesn't have those issues. It's enjoyable. I love seeing the baby calves in a pasture.
yep. And that's one of the big perks that we saw with South Poles as well, kind of on down the line from when we first got them, was the ease of calving was definitely there because we've only
Oh yeah.
pulled 2 calves in since 2006. So,
Oh yeah.
I mean, going from that to, before it was maybe a couple a year. So, it's much less stress during calving season, but you
Oh
still got to
yeah.
keep an eye on them, but it keeps them mobile for us and keeps them moving. We stay in our grazing and we keep rolling.
I have to admit there is an issue. Years ago when we were more based upon what we were breeding at the time, we knew exactly where our calf puller and chains were.
Yeah.
If I have to go get an animal in right now and pull a calf, I know where they should be, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah. Yeah. We'd probably run into that too. So,
Yeah, it's a good problem to have.
yeah. Yeah, definitely so.
Yeah. With your two breeding seasons, two calving seasons, are you putting bulls out for 45, 60, 75 days, pulling
We're,
or putting them in, then pulling them out, then putting them back in for the next breeding season?
yeah, we'll put for our spring calving, we put them in. We go about 70 days on
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Just because with our rotations, we'll end up where we can't really sneak them out of there at a timely manner. So sometimes
Oh, yeah.
they're in there a little longer than would be industry standard or anything like that. But we try to shoot about 70 days with it. So we'll put them in mid-June and we'll pull them out 70 days later, and then we do that in the winter as well. So about
Oh, yeah.
mid-December we'll stick them in and then pull them out. So, but we try to have those older calves out of there before that happens anyway.
Oh,
So
yeah.
so we don't have any 11-month-old or 10-month-old heifers in there with them or anything like that. So we try to manage around that as well.
Oh, yeah. With your breeding like that and pulling them out, I think it's great to extend on the tail end. We went a period of time when we were trying to hit that breeding window, just get it tight and then pulling the bull out. I My philosophy has changed over time that we leave that bull in longer because that cow and calf's worth more than that open cow. We just got to manage the calving season. If they don't calve in the window, and I'll be honest, we're not real good about that right now. But if they don't calve in the window, they can go to town with a calf, which I think is value added if you can follow through on that calving window.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of you got to hold yourself accountable to a lot of that stuff
You
too,
do, yeah.
and there's a lot of different opinions on that
There is.
across the spectrum. So
You're exactly right. Now, one thing you mentioned was one of your breeding seasons. The bulls are going in mid-June. That's going to be hitting some of those 90 days for you.
yeah,
How's that
yep.
work for you? Are you having any issues with that heat and humidity?
Nah. The bulls are that's the importance of using adapted animals though, because your bulls need to be
No.
adapted too,
Right.
in that regard. So that's something that we really like about naturally servicing the cows with bulls is that we get to see the bull in our environment most of the time for longer than just 60 days or something like that too. So, we want to make sure he can hold up in our management system in our grazing because those traits are going to be reflected in his calves. So if he can't hold up in it, then his calves won't hold up that well in it either. So it's always good, but we haven't had any issues with the heat. They handle it really
Oh,
well.
yeah. Let's talk a little bit about your calves because, you know, one criticism I hear about having smaller cows or more moderate sized cows is you take a hit at the market. What are you seeing when you sell your animals? Are you marketing any through wholesale channels, or are you marketing all through breeders and direct to consumer?
Yeah, my rebuttal to that would be, well, create your own market. So why would you go to a market that's going to penalize you? That doesn't make sense from a business standpoint. I
Right.
mean,
Yeah.
what business would do that? So why do we accept it?
Yes.
So that's something that we really like about the business that we've developed too, is that we're kind of free from a lot of those, industry markets at that point. So we're not held to that. We set the price for about everything that comes off the farm. Does the commodity stuff have an impact on pricing? Of course it does. But
Oh
when
yeah.
when you can value your animal at what it's valued for and not have to just take somebody else's opinion on it, then it's a lot better business wise for you at that point too. So, the only thing that we might take a coal to the stockyard near us that we can't turn to beef. So that's about the only thing that we would do that with. But outside of that, we're running our retail beef business too. So cold cows a lot of times we'll roll right into our beef side, and it's really really good beef that you can get
Oh
off
yeah.
of a cold cow too. But we're pretty much controlling the price of about everything that comes off the farm, whether it's in the freezer or on the hoof. So
Oh yes.
um,
Kind of like I think as Bud Williams has said, be a price setter, not a price taker. And I could have the credit wrong on that, but that's an important shift that really makes a big difference.
Yeah, it does. It takes extra work though.
Oh yeah.
It's that's what we kind of talk about with on the beef side, is that, it's a whole separate business in itself compared to the seed stock side. So,
Oh
but
yeah.
they work together, and they need to function together and in accordance with each other. But, when you start marketing your own stuff, there's some cost and there's time in that marketing piece of it. And you've got to have some strategy to it, or else it's going to probably fail.
Oh yeah. At Redmond, we know that you thrive when your animals do. That's why it's essential to fill the gaps in your herd's nutrition with the minerals that they need. Made by nature, our ancient mineral salt and conditioner clay are the catalyst in optimizing the nutrients your animals get from their forage. Unaltered and unrefined, our minerals have the natural balance and proportion that your animals prefer. This gives your herd the ability to naturally regulate their mineral consumption as they graze. Our minerals won't just help you improve the health of your animals, but will also help you naturally build soil fertility so you can grow more nutrient dense pasture year after year. Nourish your animals, your soil, and your life with Redmond. Learn more at redmondagriculture.com. Let's let's come back to your beef business and talk just a little bit more about seed stock. How are you marketing your animals, and do you always have animals for sale? Are there certain times you have animals?
So we jumped in with a group in Virginia a couple years ago that's done a sale up there the last few years. It's coming up a couple years ago that's done
Oh,
here.
okay.
And then there's a group in South, this year with our females, we're gonna go those routes with it. We have, you know, we kind of laugh sometimes. We're like, man, we could sell everything we have in about 10 minutes if we wanted to,
Oh,
because we
yeah.
get a lot of inquiries. The demand right now is really high for South Pole. So
Oh, yes.
so we get a lot of calls, a lot of visits. So it's kind of, sometimes you have to tell folks no, or it's not available, and kind of make decisions in advance, like
Oh,
a
yeah.
year in advance of, hey, how are we going to market them next year? So that way we can start communicating that now.
Oh, yeah.
But, we do some private treaty sales too, with just other producers. It depends, but, it's not really available all year round. We don't do like, hey, we're going to sell everything on this day like that. It's there's some feel and there's some nuance to it,
Oh,
but
yeah.
those are the two pieces there that we're utilizing this year to move our females. Just, part of that's because we do get so much demand. It's hard to really choose who to sell them to. So
Oh, yeah.
it eases it on our end a little bit.
Yeah. And with that, you're selling bulls and then a few females?
Yeah, yeah, mostly females, and then a few
Oh,
bulls.
okay.
We're pretty picky on which bulls stay intact. So,
Oh, yeah.
um,
Which is a
you
good
know,
thing.
yeah, and we have a lot of value in them as steers as well. So,
Oh, yeah.
it's not like we're gonna take a hit on banding them. So it'll, we try to be very, very picky on those. But that's what we kind of were. Me and my dad we were laughing the other day. We're like, man, we didn't keep any bull calves for two whole calving seasons,
Oh, yes.
because it's just our the beef side was growing so much, and there wasn't just the clear cut. There were some that would have developed fine, but
Right.
it's just a decision we made. So
Yeah. Just let's switch gears just a little bit and talk about your beef business. How did you get started direct to consumer and how is that going?
So we'd always sold some beef just through the years,
Oh, yeah.
just to folks kind of deal, folks in the community. We'd sell eighths and quarters. When I moved back to the farm and we picked up the acreage, that was when we were like, all right, let's try to grow this thing. So that was 2019, which it would have been nice if we could have taken that route about 3 years sooner and been prepared
Right.
for
Yeah.
COVID, but we weren't.
Yeah.
So. But it did bring that heightened awareness that following year of like,
Oh,
hey, we
yeah.
need to know where our food's coming from. So, that kind of got us on that path. I made our website, just created a website for us, and we started pushing it on Facebook. And that was kind of when we started our social media push as well in that regard. So, but it was, hey, email us if you're interested. We'll get it scheduled and then figure it out that way. And it was not very long that, we knew that it was not an efficient way to do it, but it was pretty quickly, it became inefficient. I was like, we can't manage it this way. So when we made the decision, hey, we're really going to push this harder, we went and invested in a much better website. We started selling retail cuts, and we came up with a logistical setup that was much more efficient for us. So it's kind of grown, and it keeps developing, and we keep adapting as we go.
Did you find when you all started, you said you were doing some social media and it quickly outgrew that. Did you find a really good demand for it? And
Yeah,
when I say that, you said 2019. So did you start selling beef before COVID hit, or was it after COVID had kind of set in?
we had started kind of right before that.
Oh,
So
yeah.
we'd kind of gotten it out there, and then 2020 went berserk. But we saw pretty good demand at first. It was kind of on the cusp of, we went after the target market of healthy food, was kind
Oh,
of what
yeah.
we were marketing it as at that point. So and then COVID came along, and it just kind of shifted a lot because the consumer shifted, market shifted, our viewpoint on food and the security and fragility of the food system shifted, and a lot
Mm.
of other people's viewpoints did too. So that kind of changed our approach at that point as well.
Oh, yeah.
Um, but social media has been a big tool for us in kind of building that.
Yeah. And I think you mentioned this earlier. You're selling by the cut. Are you going to any farmers market, or you doing it all through the website and at the farm?
We do it all through the website. So that
Oh,
was something when we made the decision to start selling beef, we're not going to go sit at a farmer's market. So in my personal opinion, I think it's going to become an antiquated way to sell farm products eventually. So we said, it wasn't worth the time, the effort. You're taking a lot of stuff out of your freezer to take it there and then probably bring it back. You're transporting it.
oh, yeah.
It's not an efficient way to sell meat or just sell a product in general. And we have some good ones around us, but we'd have to travel a decent bit to
Oh, yeah.
to get them. And then it's like, well, you got to get accepted into it, and you got to apply and all this stuff. And I'm like, this is like, So we're like, we're going to create our own market. Like,
Oh, yeah.
let's create our own setup here. So we started online, and then we've actually partnered with some businesses in surrounding areas, and we put freezers in their lobby, and then it's a pickup option on our website, and it's a small fee with it, but it lets us deliver once on the weekend. We go take it, put it in the freezer. Folks can come in the next week whenever that business is open and pick it up. So It's
Oh,
a
yeah.
really, really, it's worked out to be a really good setup. So we've been able to get into the Raleigh market with that. We've been able to get into Southern Pines and Sanford and some of our surrounding areas that, those folks they're not going to drive to the farm. And it's
Right.
not super efficient for us to go do home deliveries at that point.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that was kind of our middle ground, and it's been a really good fit for us.
I really like that solution. It allows you to deliver once a week to that place, and then your consumers are able to go in when it works for them. They're not trying to hit a certain time. You're not doing deliveries. I think that's a great solution to that issue.
Yeah, yeah, we do we offer home delivery, but
Yeah.
it's pretty limited on who does it. So, if there's a pickup option that's cheaper, folks pick that most of the time, and it's
Oh, yeah.
convenient for them. And um, the other kicker is that we're very picky on who we do it with, so it has to kind of align with their business as well. And
Oh, yeah.
most of the time, the business actually helps promote it too. So,
Oh, yes.
so it adds another level of marketing for us. It gives us another space where people see it because they see the freezer in the lobby and it's got our stuff on it. And
Oh, yeah.
so it's it's kind of consistent marketing at the same time.
Yeah, I could see that being really beneficial. You mentioned you are doing a little bit of home delivery. Do you have a route, certain area you cover? How's the home delivery work?
We limited it to zip codes within
Oh, yeah.
it's kind of like one county around us is what we limited it to. So, and it's not that bad. It usually works out pretty well. And it's, we might have like one or two on the weekend or something. And most of the time it's generally on that delivery route to our pickup locations anyway.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not too far out of the way and works pretty efficiently for us.
Uh,
But
for the consumer, are they picking a time that you would deliver it, or are you telling them we'll be here at X, at whatever time? I'm just thinking about how are they keeping the meat cold if they're not there? Is it something they're planning to be there? How's that work?
yeah, they know it's coming that day. So, and then I communicate with them Friday night and just say, "Hey, we'll be there this time." And, are you going to be there? If not, you need to leave a cooler out for us and you need to
Right.
make sure you get it. So,
Oh,
um,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
but yeah, that's, and that's something we're going to improve in the future too. We'll probably introduce shipping in the coming years, next year or two, but we just don't have the volume because we satisfy it with our local market so much that,
Oh, yeah.
it hasn't made sense to offer a bigger reach yet.
Yeah. One thing I think you said earlier, you're moving most of your cull animals, or, and I hate to say cull animals, but certain animals you are culling, but some you're raising just for this market, but you're moving them basically completely through your beef
Hmm.
business.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So, and that's where, the advantage of that 4 or 5 year old cow that, maybe she missed this year or lost her calf or something like that. And we can roll her into our beef program and it goes from, taking her to the sale barn where she might, who knows the prices these days, but, consistently it's not going to be a great
Right.
financial gain for you, but it turns it into a pretty valuable animal still once it's finished. So, it adds that other aspect to us for that.
Oh, yeah. Now, when you are thinking about an animal and what you're getting that animal cut up into, for how do you make that decision what they get cut up into, and is there any difference based upon age or anything when you're making that decision?
Yeah, it depends. Depends on the age of the animal. If they're older, we probably just do ground beef with it.
Oh, yeah.
It's mostly what we tried some older ones and tried cutting some steaks out just to try it. And it was our experience. We ate them. We didn't sell them. Um, so that was something that it was like, okay, yeah, that's a little tougher. It still
Oh,
tasted
yeah.
great though. I mean, the flavor was there. It was really good, but it's just like wasn't to our standard as what we want our consumers to have.
Right.
But the ground beef is always it's pretty solid regardless.
Oh, yeah.
But if it's a fairly younger cow at that point, if it is a colt, we usually cut it like we do everything else.
Oh, yeah.
And we use a somewhat standard cut sheet just to keep it consistent because it keeps our inventory consistent on our website. And keeps our communication consistent when we do sell bulk packages. So it just makes it easier for everybody. And we have some folks ask about, hey, can we decide how it's cut? And I send them the cut sheet, and they're like, no, we're good. Here you go. You can do
Oh
it.
yeah.
So it's partly education on the consumer side as well.
Oh yeah. And when you're selling your meat, are you selling it mainly by the cut? Do you have some bundles? Or are they buying whole, half, quarters?
We do. So each animal we pre-sell 2/4 out of it. And then the other
Oh,
half of it we put into our retail inventory. So that was something to help us manage freezer space as well. Because
right. Yeah.
especially in an operation that's growing like this, that's a bottleneck as you get started, is your freezer space, which hopefully we've addressed that now. But it getting going, it was kind of like, well, it's very valuable to us if we can move half of it right off the bat and have it planned to go somewhere, then let's do that. And then we can also satisfy that demand for just the retail cuts as well. Because when we were just selling eighths and quarters, we kept getting a lot of questions like, can I just buy steaks? Can I just buy
Oh,
this?
yeah.
I just want 10 pounds of ground beef. And it was like we were missing a whole part of the market by, not offering that. So,
Oh, yeah.
so it allows us to broaden our market that we're reaching.
Yeah. And in addition to your beef, you're also selling a few other products there.
Yep, we do. So the pork and chicken are newer ventures for us. So
Oh,
that's,
okay.
last 4 or 5 years we've introduced that. So we kind of, the beef kick started the meat sales, and then it was, hey, let's find some ways to diversify our product lines a little bit, and also bring some different aspects to the stresses of the farm. What running pigs through that, running chickens on the pasture. So we were after the soil benefits really more than anything, but it is in combination. It's the same. So we do sell pork and chicken as well.
Oh, yeah. And how are those markets going? Are they and businesses for the farm? Are they growing? You're finding a nice demand?
Yeah. It's interesting. The pork is very different. People's taste for beef and pork is very different, which is it's very interesting just to kind of follow consumers and what they're after and who eats what. And so the demand for pork, I guess with our market at least, isn't as high as the beef.
Oh,
It
yeah.
still moves, but it's not like, I mean, the demand for the beef is unreal right now. So chicken has gone pretty quickly for us too. So
Oh,
we
yeah.
always we joke about that. We got into partner chickens. So tenders and breasts, we send our weekly email out, and it's like gone in about 10 minutes. So
Oh, yeah.
which is fun to watch. But and then I like leg quarters take a little longer to sell, which I don't understand. They're my favorite part. So
Oh, yeah.
and it's a good meal. The kids like to eat it because it's on the bone. They feel like a caveman eating some chicken off the bone. But
For your chickens, are you processing them or are you taking them somewhere to be processed?
yeah, we've been processing them to get started, but we don't do a ton of chickens. It's kind of what we can manage, and it adds something else to our product
Oh,
offering. But
yeah.
as we continue to scale, we'll have to figure out, whether we want to continue to do that, or how do we grow that number and keep it manageable.
Right, yeah. And if you're looking at off the farm processing, finding it and then the added cost that's in there, it yeah, a few questions to be answered in that journey.
Yeah, yeah, it complicates things.
Yeah. For your hogs, you've got them running in woods, clearing it, opening it up. What breed of hogs did you go with?
So we buy in feeder piglets. We don't
Oh, you're
farrow
buying
them.
feeder pigs
Yeah,
in?
yeah, we didn't. That was a different ball game there. So we
Well,
decided to keep it simple.
yes, I
Um,
completely agree.
and we've been running a mix of Old Spot and Berkshire, and then our supplier decided to shift directions. So we shifted to a wattle mix now that we
Oh,
buy
yeah.
from one of our friend, or a farm friend, I guess you'd call it. But yeah, one of the guys we gotten to know pretty well. So a lot of respect for him and what he's doing. But so he's kind of become our supplier now with that. But we have him for 5 months, 5, 6 months on the farm. We run them through the woods. We've got a lot of hardwoods where we're at, so there's a lot of
Oh,
hickory
okay.
trees, a lot of oak trees. It's a pretty good setting for hogs. It's not super thick. It's pretty open underneath anyway, so they can go through and they clean it up pretty good. And it's interesting in those areas we've seen different species of plants come up because that leaf floor isn't there. So there's
Oh,
different cool
yeah.
season grasses that have come up in there, some other things like that. So it adds a lot of variety for them, but they do really well. They really like the late fall. So after
Oh,
all the
yes.
acorns are on the ground, but
Yeah.
running them in the pasture too, and we decided quickly that was a bad idea. So
Yeah. Because they tore up too much pasture.
yeah, that
Yeah.
was not. We were like, I don't think we like that. So that was a
Right.
one and done experiment.
So you're moving them through wooded areas. How often are you moving them and are you using electric fence with them?
Yep, we started just using some reels and polywire, and
Oh,
we
yeah.
would kind of create our paddock, and it wasn't very efficient. So we took a break from them for about 6 months. We skipped a kind of a round of doing our pigs, and we went in and we put in 2 strands of high tensile as kind of like our exterior fence. So,
Oh, yes.
it's at most 12, 18 inches off the ground, just 2 strands of high tensile, and then we'll pull our polywire right across just like we manage our cattle. So it's a very similar system. We have to keep water moving to them, so we run a garden hose that's hooked up, and we actually tie it to a T-post and bang it in the ground, and it keeps
Oh,
us
yeah.
mobile. But it helps that we can move quicker if we need to. We can move slower. Right now, it depends on their size. When they're younger, we'll kind of go a week between moves. As they get bigger, we'll do 3, 4 days. We want to get impact in that area and clean it up
Oh,
pretty
yeah.
good. So if we just kind of fly through it, we don't hit it very hard. We could do that, but it's more work at that point for not a lot of that effect we're looking for.
Right. Yeah. Shifting gears just a little bit with your chickens. What kind of chicken tractor are you using for your chickens? I assume you're using a movable shelter.
Yeah, we started with the Salatin style
Oh, yeah.
tractors, so we got started with that. We're kind of just managing with them until they end their lifetime. So and they're not worth keep going. So and then we're planning on going with a different type of structure, more of like a hoop house type structure moving forward.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
probably a little bigger. So, and that's something like between this year and next year, we're gonna have to look at that as well. So that's one of our decisions we've got coming up. Because I'd love to see the guys that are doing it at a much larger scale on pasture. I think it's so cool because we're in chicken country here. I mean, the chicken houses everywhere. So
Oh, yeah.
when your neighbors that have chicken houses drive by and they see 200 chickens out on the pasture, it raises some eyebrows. So
I'm
I'd love to
sure
have an even bigger unit out there that draws some more eyeballs, but that'd be all right. So we manage what we can.
that chicken manure is such amazing stuff, too. I mean, it makes rocks grow grass. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's really cool. What really stuck out to us was February of one year, we got the drone up and we were flying above the pasture, and you could still see just the squares down the pasture
Oh, yeah.
from that whole year. I mean, you could see it in February. We'd graze through there with the cows and everything. So it was,
Oh, yeah.
it was really cool to see that. We're like, okay, that's a pretty big effect we're having with
Yeah, it
that.
is.
So
Yeah.
so that's why, we try to pick areas where we do our chickens at, and we kind of go geographically is how I describe it. Of like we'll pick a paddock of our grazing, and we'll run them through there for the year, and then we'll pick one over here the next year, and kind of keep going from there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So they're in areas where you're grazing cattle. Do you ever have cattle in with those structures, or do you usually avoid it when you have those structures in there? Or you
We
fence
roll
them
we
out?
roll right through there. So
Row right
we
through
roll
it.
the cows right through with them. Yep.
Yeah. I figure cows wouldn't be a problem. I know I've got a couple little chicken tractors, and I don't want my goats next to it because the goats will just cause havoc
Yeah.
with it.
Yeah. The cows, they don't mess with it much. They might scratch on it a little bit, but they avoid it. So they're more like, what the heck are those things? So
Yeah, right, right. So as you think about the coming years and the future for your farm, what do you see?
scaling. That's our goal. How do we continue to scale it? Because it's been a challenge for us the last 5, 6 years now. That's been our goal. That's what we've been working through. We went 2 years and didn't sell any females to grow our numbers.
Oh, yeah.
So it's, now it's, as we're growing in size, to continue scaling it, it has to change as well. So, that's something that we're really putting a lot of effort into right now, of how do we manage scaling? How do we grow it? How do we continue to adapt and create a very viable business as a whole with it. So, future years, that's priority one. And then we look at our stolons from there, and, how does each one fit in? How does our seed stock fit in? How does the beef fit in? How does pork fit in? How does chicken fit in? And we have to manage that. We might have to prioritize ones over the other, which seed stock's priority one in our opinion, beef's priority two, and then the other, pork and chicken, are, they're hanging in there. So
Right.
they're still worth it enough for us to continue right now.
Yeah, it's got to be. You've only got so many hours in a day for you to get to everything. Make sure it's done in a way that you want it done.
Yeah, yeah, and it takes a lot of effort to work on the business as much as in the
It
business
it
too.
does,
So
yeah.
that's something else where, I still work off the farm. I run our chamber of commerce in town right now, so, which has been extremely valuable to us and to me,
Oh
because I
yes.
get to interface with so many business folks just day in and day out, and some really successful people. And that you can ask questions to people that like, they don't have the farm bias to it, so
Oh
they
yes.
see it from a system standpoint and a business standpoint, and they'll, they challenge you on stuff, and they get you to think differently. And so it's, it brings that aspect that we've been able to kind of approach things, and we continue to challenge our thought processes on what we're doing, and how to do it, and how to get bigger and grow.
Yeah, that would give you a very unique perspective getting to have conversations with these business individuals.
Yeah, very much so. It's also opened some really cool doors to
Oh,
elected
I'm sure.
officials that, I never would have thought I'd been discussing regenerative agriculture with our state reps and
Oh
senators.
yeah.
And so when you get to sit in front of those people and tell them pretty directly, your thoughts and your opinions on stuff, and how we as a whole in agriculture might miss the boat on some things,
Yeah.
it's pretty interesting. So
Oh, that would be, yeah. Josh, it's time we do our famous four questions. The South Pole Grass Cattle Association invites you to the 17th annual South Pole Field Day and Cattle Auction, happening September 19th and 20th, 2025, at Heifer Ranch in Perryville, Arkansas. This flagship gathering brings together breeders, enthusiasts, and industry professionals to celebrate the South Pole breed while deepening knowledge of grazing systems and animal husbandry. This event features educational talks on the history of the South Pole breed, heifer development on forage, and breakout sessions on grazing tools, record keeping, and producing premium grass-fed beef. You'll also enjoy the junior speaking contest, networking opportunities, visiting with vendors, and plenty more. Founded in 2008, the SPGCA is a nonprofit dedicated to advancing this gentle, heat-tolerant maternal breed known for exceptional grass-to-beef efficiency. They provide pedigree, registrations, education, and events that connect and support producers nationwide. Join us for 2 days of learning, sharing, and community. Register or learn more at southpole.com. That is southpole.com, SOUTHPOLL.com. Same four questions we ask of all of our guests. Our first question: what's your favorite grazing grass related book or resource?
hmm okay, can I give you two? Do I have to pick
Yes.
one? Okay.
Nope, you can give
um
us two.
and I will go ahead and preface it. They both probably have nothing to do with actually grazing grass.
That's
So
okay.
the first one is the Bible, in my opinion,
Oh,
because
yeah.
it is the center of our life and our farm, and it guides our decisions, it guides our mindset, it guides everything. So if we're not in that every day, then we're going to struggle.
Oh,
So
yeah.
That's number one in my opinion. So you can find everything you need in that. The second one is a book that I read this year, more on the food side, that was pretty
Oh, okay.
cool. So it's called The End of Craving by Mark Schatzker.
Oh, okay.
So it's a pretty unique look at what is in our food, as far as like additives, artificial flavors, kind of how it got to the way it is. So very interesting read. It's an easy read too, so it's kind
Oh,
of
yes.
story based. It's pretty good. So I'd highly recommend somebody to read that because a lot of what drives us on our farm as well is the mission to provide some really high quality food for our family and for other families. So knowing more about the food is very important for our farms in general. So, that's one of my soapbox things is like, you know, I think the food industry and agriculture need to kind of cross pollinate a little more there.
Oh,
So as
yeah.
grazers and producers of food, if we can understand that more, it's going to be better for us when we are producing it to make decisions on how we're going to manage our cattle or pigs or chickens or whatever it is.
Oh, yeah. And I'll have to look that book up, The End of Craving.
Yeah, it's pretty good. He's got some other ones in there too that are
Oh, okay.
also good reads. So he's got kind of like a series of them. He did one. It's called Steak. It's on his quest to find the best steak in the world. So that one's pretty entertaining to read. But it's a pretty neat look at his travels and some of his experiences. So
I am I've seen the steak book, and I don't know that I've gotten it. I know I haven't read it yet, but I don't think I've purchased it yet. I've heard of that one.
it's gonna make you want to eat steak. I'll just tell you that. So
Yeah. Well, good. I always need another reason to eat more protein, so there we go.
yep,
Okay.
yep.
Maybe that's not the case, but still yet. Our second question, what is your favorite tool for the farm?
So we laugh about this. We would not function without our little beat up trucks. So it's not a fancy tool. It's not something, I think we get attracted to shiny new objects and the newest,
Oh,
biggest, and best things. But, if we can go buy a little Toyota truck for $3,500 and not spend 30,000 on a side by side,
oh yeah.
and they're extremely functional for us because we're pretty spread out. Well, we're a little spread out. So we got to go 5 miles down the road here, 2 miles there. So
Oh yeah.
it makes it much better that way. And the larger bed, man, we can carry whatever we need to, and we keep it with us most all the time. They go anywhere and everywhere. So, that's probably our favorite tool. That's our number one tool there. Without that, we could figure out ways to manage without other tools, but that's one that's pretty vital to what we do.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and I can see how that'd be really useful. Just this past week I had my pickup in the shop and it was like I can't do anything. And then we had a flat on the UTV and we had to get the tire fixed. And I'm like, I can't get anything done. I'd drive a tractor up to my animals.
Yeah, you don't realize how much you can be crippled once we miss that, So we
Yeah.
felt that too. We've had it in the shop before and we're like, man, and we didn't get that thing back.
Right, yeah. Our third question, what would you tell someone just getting started?
Focus. You need focus. You need clarity
Oh,
and
I need
focus.
focus all the time. So
So
go ahead, Josh.
we so and I think our social media presence gives us quite a reach to folks with
Oh,
visitors
yeah.
that come to us. We have a lot of folks that come visit that want to get into doing kind of what we do. A lot of times that's the advice we give them is like, quit trying to do so much. Like
Right.
focus on something. So like with South Poles, if you want to get into South Poles, focus on getting really high quality stock.
Oh, yeah.
Um, Focus on making sure that you're taking time with selection and you're taking time on sourcing your animals. Like don't just rush into it. But
Mhm.
if you want to go the beef route, you might not have to focus on so much the paper side and learning lineages and learning all that.
Oh, yeah.
So, you have to focus on building relationships with producers where you can go find steers and you can go do this and relationships with your customers. It's a different focus. So, starting out with somebody, that's probably number one is like you got to define your focus. What is it? What do you want to do? And how are you going to do it? So,
Oh, yeah.
I think that would be a pretty solid piece of advice for somebody starting.
Yeah. And it's really easy to think you want to do everything. And you really got to rein that in and get good at just a single piece or just a few pieces.
Yeah, and it's really hard to start too,
Oh, yeah.
especially in our climate today. I mean, the cost of land is ridiculous
Oh, it
around
is.
us. I mean, it is 6 times what it was 6 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
We have a lot of development pressure around us right now too. So Toyota built a factory 15 minutes from us. We've got just thousands and thousands of jobs coming around us. So there's a lot of housing that's going to be built too. But
Oh, yeah.
um, you know, but if someone wants to get into it, they've got to create that focus with it, create a goal, create something that you really want to strive for, and then create your process backwards from that to achieve it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Excellent advice there. Lastly, where can others find out more about you?
So we have Facebook and Instagram. It's Harris Home Place Farm. You can go give us a follow on there. You can write me rude and mean comments if you want to. We get plenty of them, so it
Yeah.
doesn't it don't offend me anymore. So no, it keeps it entertaining actually. So,
Oh, yeah.
but yeah, that's a good one. We have a website, harrishomeplacefarm.com, and reaching out through any of those avenues is always a good. It goes to me, so
Oh, yeah.
so
Yeah. So that
I'll
works
get it.
out.
I'll get the message. So,
Oh, very good.
but yeah, those are good ones there. So that's probably the best way for folks to get a hold of us, and then they can find us on the South Pole Registry too. Which if folks are interested in South Poles, that's what I would tell them is go on the registry online, producers, and find folks near you, call them, go see cows, go talk to them,
Oh,
find out who they think has really good animals, and then go talk and visit those people. It's build your network by going and spending time on it. So
yeah. Excellent advice there. Again, I know I talked about and had heard about South Poles for a long time before I ever saw them in person. And once I saw them in person, I'm like, oh, wow, even better than I anticipated.
yeah,
Yeah.
I get a lot of calls just because folks find our number on the website and stuff, and I always ask them, like, have you seen them in person? Have you seen South Poles in person? Because they're like, well, we want to get South Poles. I'm like, have you seen them? And they're, a lot of times like, well, no. And I'm like, okay, just come visit one day and we'll talk.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
we have a lot of farm visits in that regard. But yeah, it's, we get to see it every day, so we get kind of numb to it. But,
Oh, yeah.
it's always good to be able to explain your animals and tell them, hey, well, this is one of our better cows, and here's her dam, and well, there's a grand dam over there, and
Oh,
here's two
yeah.
of her calves. So they get to see a whole picture as well, and we can show them steers that are finished and steers that are 12 months old. So it's kind of good to get a whole gamut view of the
Oh,
the
yeah.
entirety of what you're looking at. So
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. And we'll put those links in our show notes for Facebook, Instagram, your website. We'll also put for SPGCA in there. I think I got all those letters in the right order.
yeah, yeah.
And before we finish
SPGCA,
up,
yep, that's right.
yeah. Yeah, I have to
Yeah,
think about it. I have to run it through in my
SPGCA, yep,
head.
that's right.
Before we wrap up for today, do you
Um,
have a question for
so
me?
when you started the podcast to where you're at now, what has been the biggest change you've seen in the grazing industry?
It just the big thing is or to me, just in the 5 years the podcast has been going, finding people to be guests on the podcast, the popularity, and part of it is where I'm putting myself out there. I'm hearing about more people. But I'm also seeing it more as I drive down the road. I see people who I know they're moving animals more often because they're using polywire or they have high tensile. But when I first started, a struggle was finding guests to be on the podcast. And obviously, I didn't have all the relationships built that I have now. I didn't have the network built that I have now. So that all makes it easier. But I do just feel there's more people out there doing it, and we still have just barely scratched the surface.
Yeah, yeah, definitely so.
So that's the big change I see is just so many more people trying to do something. And with the podcast, wherever you are, I hope you identify with the story we shared, the journey, and we hope you take that next step, whatever that next step is. If you're set stock, let's let's divide your pasture in half and move them. Just just that. If you're already doing that, maybe you can move them. Maybe you can have 4 pastures. Maybe you can get to a weekly rotation. Maybe you can get to a daily. Whatever works for your context. But if you're moving cows, it's going to make a difference. Maybe you should evaluate the chemicals you're putting on your place if you're eating that. What synthetic fertilizers or things you're doing, how's that affecting your soil health? So we're just hoping that people take their next step, whatever that may be.
Yep. The first step is always the best step. So,
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Get started.
hmm
Get started. Try something. And everything's not going to work great your first time. Just know that. Just action. And you fail, something that doesn't work, and try it a different way.
yeah.
That has to be my motto of my life, or I wouldn't be doing anything.
Yep, very much so. I think we need to realize as, grazers too, we talk about this stuff all the time. We see it a lot. But there's still so many operations that don't touch it. And there's so
Oh,
much growth that can happen within the grazing community. I mean, just around us here, you drive by it all the time. And it's like, man, there's so much potential. But we got to remember where, when we talk with folks, where's their contacts at now? What are they looking at? How can it be a benefit to them?
right.
How do we communicate that effectively?
Effectively and in a way they're willing to accept it. Come
hmm
off abrasive, discounting what they're doing and what they're trying to do is not the best way.
Yep.
We've got to work with them and encourage them to take that next step without condemning what they're. I think we just have to be careful how much we condemn conventional agriculture. I think there's some to go around, and there's some practices we really need to move away from. But getting my neighbor to rotate their animals, I haven't found the answer because they still don't. But maybe one day I'll make a
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good to be the example though too. So that was something with that lease we picked up. We picked it up because they drove by our farm every day
Oh
and they
yes.
saw our grass and they saw our cows. Like
Oh yeah.
that was
Makes a
why.
difference.
So,
Yeah.
it does when you can show what happens and they see it, then it speaks volumes. So
Oh yeah. Josh, really enjoyed you coming on and sharing today with us.
yeah, no, thanks for having me, Cal. I appreciate this. This was cool. So.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Grazing Grass Podcast, where we bring you stories and insights into grass-based livestock production. If you're new here, we've got something just for you. Our new listener resource guide is packed with everything you need to get started on your listening journey with the Grazing Grass Podcast. Gives you more information about the podcast, about myself, and next steps. You can grab your free copy at grazinggrass.com/guide. Don't miss out. And hey, do you have a grazing story to share? We're always looking for passionate producers to feature on the show. Whether you're just starting out or have years of experience, your story matters. Head over to grazinggrass.com/guest to learn more and apply to be a guest. We'd love to share your journey with our growing community of grazers. Until next time, keep on grazing grass.